In this video, I'm going to give you a tour of my slightly sketchy Arri Alexa Classic. Now real quick, if you don't know the backstory behind this camera and if you don't know about it in general, or if this is your first video that you're seeing of mine, definitely pause this video and go watch the first video I have linked in the description. And after watching that, you'll understand why my Arri Alexa is in the condition that it is. And it's an awesome video series, so definitely go watch that first so you're kind of up to date on what's going on with this Alexa. I just bought 5 broken Arri Alexas. While I was scouring eBay one day, I found this listing for 5 broken Arri Alexas for only $1,500. I sent them a message on eBay and said that I'm a YouTuber and I'd love to make a video about attempting to fix these cameras. And after what seemed like days of waiting, their sales department actually found my email through my YouTube channel and told me that they would love to help out, and we eventually agreed on a price of $1,250. Now, I'm no expert at repairing cameras, so I quickly did tons of research and ordered all the parts that I would need to hopefully fix these cameras. Now, with all the parts at my disposal, all there was left to do was wait for the cameras. And after 3 long days, they finally arrived at my doorstep. After taking all the cameras out of the box and looking at their rough condition, I decided to try to power the first one up. So I plugged in the V-mount battery to the DC input on the camera, and nothing happened. Now, even though the power button was missing on this camera, I used a conductive screw to try to power it on that way, and it actually turned on. Now, getting them to power on is great and all, but the real question is, can I fix them? Make sure to hit like and subscribe, and check out the full video in the pinned comment on this video. So now that that's out of the way, let's get into my sketchy Arri Alexa build. So this is the Arri Alexa right here. I think it turned out really good how I have it set up right here. This is pretty much this exact same rig, like even down to the lens that I use 99% of the time with this camera. This is pretty much exactly how I have it set up. So let's get into the tour of this camera. I'm gonna start all the way up front at the lens and then just work my way back and go through the entire rig, all the stuff that I have on it, as well as some of the unique features of this Alexa specifically. And every product that I talk about in this, I'm gonna link down in the description, you know, all like just the random little gear, lens, monitor, you know, that sort of thing. I'm gonna link all that stuff down in the description if you wanna check it out. All right, so right here you can kind of see this little setup. So the lens is a Tokina 28-70mm f2.6 to f2.8. Now this is a vintage lens. It came out in the early 90s. I did make a full video about this lens going into, you know, the backstory behind it and why I love it so much, which I'll link that video down in the description as well. And then for ND filter, I have this Kolari, I hope I said that right, variable ND filter. This is definitely one of my favorite ND filters I've used, along with my Freewell variable ND system, but this Kolari one is absolutely fantastic. And last but not least, we have the follow focus right here. This is a small rig follow focus, nothing special about it. It works great. I've really had no issues with it. So I definitely recommend it if you want, you know, not an electric one, but just a manual follow focus like this. I guess one last thing, right here are 15mm rods. Now this is something I want to mention just in a minute here, down here. But yeah, 15mm rods that kind of go all the way back to, you know, the end of the camera there and have all this other stuff attached to them. But these are wooden camera 15mm rods. All right, next up, kind of back over here, this is the main brain of the camera. This is the body right here. And the first thing you might notice is this chunk of duct tape. So there's actually 4 ports here, and I believe they're for focus iris, zoom control, or powering some sort of lens accessories, I believe. Nothing that I personally need at all. You can probably tell because I don't even know exactly what they're for. So I'm not worried about them being gone, but these were missing when I bought the camera. But besides that, of course, you know, the whole Alexa body right here. And then on top up here, I have a wooden camera top handle. This thing is fantastic. A wooden camera friction arm up here holding a small HD monitor. This is a 7-inch, I think it's called the 702. Either way, it's a small HD monitor, 7 inches, really bright. This thing is fantastic. And of course, SDI cable just, you know, running along the side of the camera here from the camera to the monitor. And then there's this big coil, big thick wire right here. So this is something that I don't wanna have to have on here, but I have to have this cable running into the DC input on this camera from the V-mount battery, because typically there's, you know, either a gold mount or V-mount battery plate that just comes with the camera. It just has it installed into the camera and, you know, just connected through the wires in there into the camera. You get a V-mount battery, you slide it on and it works. However, this camera is missing that entire V-mount or gold mount battery plate on the back, as well as the connection point. So even if I do get the right plate, I don't have the wires to actually connect it to the camera. So I essentially had to jerry-rig this by getting this cable that goes from a D-tap from a V-mount battery into the DC input of this camera. I think this input is, you know, for the most part, probably designed for plugging it into the wall to get unlimited power with it. But luckily, a company actually makes a cable from a D-tap to the DC input. However, this cable alone was $100 just for the cable. So it's kind of ridiculous, but it's really my only option for getting power to this. But it gets worse. Let me flip it around here so you can kind of see better. So right now I have a V-mount battery connected to the camera here to power it. And then I have this V-mount plate right here. This is, I think, a small rig V-mount plate. The actual V-mount plates that go onto the Arri camera, first of all, like I just said, they wouldn't really work with it. But even if I did, you know, still want to get one of those plates to attach it to the camera, just to make it easier to attach a V-mount battery, those plates are also very, very expensive. So I didn't want to shell out that kind of money just for a V-mount plate. But I did have this small rig one. The V-mount plates that you get that are meant for this have screw holes in specific locations. This one doesn't. So I had to find a way to attach it to the back of the camera and ended up just Velcroing it. So you can kind of see it's a little wobbly right here. It's just Velcroed onto the back of the camera. However, it's worked very well for me. It's never fallen off. It's never like even come close to falling off. It wiggles a little bit. However, I've had no issues with it. It works great for me. It's just a little bit on the sketchy side. Definitely something that I should get replaced and just get the one that's meant for it. But either way, here we are. It still works. Hasn't broken yet. And then on the very back, I have a Power Extra V-mount battery. But one thing I forgot to mention is this whole setup down here. So you can see I have a Manfrotto quick release plate on here. So this camera from the factory comes with a dovetail, an Arri dovetail base plate on the bottom of it. However, that was missing on this camera, so there isn't really any form of connection points, you know, to put a tripod plate on. There are two 3/8 threads where that dovetail plate usually goes on the camera. However, it's built really weird, and there's actually like borders on the sides of it, so I can't even thread on like a Manfrotto quick release plate like what I use for, you know, most of my cameras. That won't even go on because it hits those two walls on the side. I don't know how to explain it, but there's no way to attach like a quick release plate to this. So what I had to do is really just jerry-rig this entire bottom part, because the Alexa does have 15mm rod like ports on it or slots built into the camera. So I essentially put 15mm rods in there, but pushed them all the way back so I could put this other little 15mm rod accessory with a cheese plate on the bottom. So then it has a cheese plate in the bottom of the camera that I can attach a quick release plate to. So that's how I kind of got around that. Otherwise, there was no way for me to even mount it on a tripod, you know, without having to buy that dovetail base plate and a dovetail plate and, you know, all that sort of stuff. I mean, just that base plate, I can't even find one on eBay, but it would at least be a couple $100s. That's what, you know, the ones for different models are. So the prices are just crazy. That's kind of why I have to jerry-rig some of this stuff on here, you know, to get away with it without having to spend a crazy amount of money. But that is pretty much it for the Arri Alexa setup. So it's definitely a little bit sketchy. I've also opened the camera up a bunch of times, so if there was any weather sealing built into it, that's probably gone as well. But it still works great for me, and I've gotten some awesome footage with it and just absolutely love using this camera. So I think for me, it was worth doing all that to save. I mean, if I did everything right on that, all that stuff that I just kind of put together my own way, if I bought all the right parts for all that stuff, it probably would have been close to $1,000 in just parts that I saved by doing everything, you know, just a little bit of a different way. But either way, that wraps this video up. Go down, hit the like button and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next video.